All right, welcome to the Coaches Show. 1-0.
1-0.
So that's important. Although I don't think that's the most important thing. I think the most important thing is getting a baseline.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's your first game's always tells you a lot more than practice.
Full speed, right?
Full speed, and kind of what we talked about on last week's show is you think you have a pretty good idea, but nothing really shows you what you have until you get to live action, as you mentioned. So it's always kind of a race to see how fast you can get to your potential. And obviously the quicker you do that, the better season you have.
And of course, always the first game, all the coaches are like, okay, we're going to review that. We're going to review that.
Yes.
We're going to review that. That's football.
Absolutely.
Is you're constantly working on things, and how can you possibly improve something without looking at mistakes
Right.
and working on that mistake, working on rhythm.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand, like marching band and football, it's a lot the same. Marching band has a formation. Well, football also has a rhythm to every single play. There's counts, there's beats, there's steps. Very, very similar, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Right. Absolutely.
What I was happy to see, and we're going to start talking about some of your players, I was happy to see is the first series, not my favorite.
not mine either.
Not my favorite, but the second series, a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then as the night went on, you could see the rhythm. You could
Yeah.
see the connections. You could see how these guys are putting together.
Sure.
And again, this is how every season starts, I feel like,
Right.
for every team since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to see this brand new team and watching that improvement unfold. First out-of-state win in the history of Choctaw.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And kind of to your point, obviously didn't start off in a great way for us. We kind of found our rhythm, as the game went on. Obviously, you'd like to start faster, you'd like to be more crisp, all those things. But typically at the beginning of the season, all teams, and we're not immune to that, or worse than they are, at the end of the season. So you only have X amount of practices to try to get ready. There's also some nerves associated with the first game, out of state, 7-hour road trip, all those kind of things, new environment, and I was really proud of the way that our kids responded, and like you said, not maybe the best start, but a pretty good finish.
Yep. Now, of course, you played an excellent team. We're going to start talking about offense. Like, I was impressed with and I'm going to call them the front eight, because a lot of times they were loading that box and they were playing man on the outside and cover one in the back. Those were some big old boys. That was a pretty good football team in general.
There's multiple, Power 4 commits on the defensive line and the defense in general. So a very well coached team. My hats off, Logan Monterey. They went 2 rounds deep last year in Texas, and a larger school than us as well, bigger enrollment and all those kind of things. And just for our kids to go get a road win, albeit sloppy, still very impressive.
No, we did talk a little bit, then we'll get into offense. Like, the 2-minute warning threw me off. Is like, and you were telling me a little off camera that, Texas has slightly different rules.
Right.
And when we're in Texas, we had adjusted those rules.
Absolutely. So it's, Oklahoma in a lot of states, I would say the majority, I don't have the exact stats, but play under NFHS rules. And Texas plays under UIL rules, University Interscholastic League rules. And so, essentially it's like NCAA modified rules. So you can, run kickoffs back from the end zone, touchbacks, PATs, and 2-point conversions are not dead. So a defense can score on a 2-point conversion. There's a 2-minute warning, slightly, smaller or more narrow hashes. You can cut block. There's a lot of little things that that you can do that are slightly different than in Oklahoma. We didn't get bogged down too much in the details of those with our kids. Just wanted to be able to play fast and kind of address those things as they came, and obviously made them aware. But we didn't feel like it needed to be a huge focus. At the end of the day, it's still 11-on-11 football. You got to line them up and build a block and tackle and all those kind of things. And so, I thought our kids handled it really well.
Okay. Well, speaking of how they handle it, offensive player of the game.
Yeah, offensive player of the game. Hard to go against. Our choice. A guy that I felt like just continued to take over as the game went on and just did a fantastic job. Was our leader on offense and quarterback Landon Gatson. Threw for for 200, ran for a bunch, and just kind of like put it in his hands at the end of the game, and really took over. And super proud of his leadership, and kind of first official start as a senior, and all those things, and just looked comfortable, accurate with the ball in his hands, made plays with his feet, and just kept us in, made good decisions all night. And super proud of him.
Well, we don't talk about it beforehand. So unfortunately, maybe fortunately, I also had Landon as my player of the game.
Very good.
I thought we could have focused on the mayor, Hawk, Matlock had some nice carries. They had well. Morgan and Hawk had some really good blocks.
Yeah.
Really good blocks that led the way for Landon. I thought Landon truly looked like a senior leader.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's why I thought he was the player of the game. I saw one decision where he was about to take a 15-yard sack, and he had the wherewithal, I'm just going to throw it away.
Yeah.
And throw it away in a way that he was allowed to.
Right.
And so, yes, incomplete, but it got back up to the line of scrimmage,
Right.
And he didn't panic. And I was like, that is kind of the leadership that we need.
Right.
And I've just watched this kid grow from a freshman. So have you,
Yeah.
but like I've been impressed with his
Yeah.
leadership and decision making.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that doesn't get on the stat sheet necessarily, but it's a huge role of a quarterback is to keep you out of bad plays.
Right.
And obviously everybody loves to get into the good plays, and that's what we want as well. But obviously throughout the course of a season, not everything's going to go your way, and so just his ability to not take negative plays and not get us in bad situations, let you snap the ball again and have a chance to be successful. And I thought he did a really good job of that as well.
Yep. All right. Let's go move on to defense.
Yeah, defense. Defense lights out. It's always ifs and buts, and I know the saying that's associated with that. But I was really proud of our defense. We had to give up 7 points on a kickoff, 2 points of safety, from the offense, and so 9 of the points obviously are coming from something besides the defense giving up a score. And on top of that, before the half, defense runs a pick six back for a touchdown, which I'm sure we'll touch on here in just a moment. But really able to score on defense, get a lot of crucial stops, all that against a really good offense and a big offensive line. And some really electric skill guys. So they have an inside receiver that is a track star in Texas. In the 100 meters, some elite speed and things like that. And really proud of our guys stepping up. It was really hard to go one guy as far as defensive player of the week. So what we do is we have a production chart, and we have points associated with all these tackles for loss, interceptions, etc. All these kind of things. And we actually had 3 guys that were near tied to the top, which is always a good thing, and we had one at each level. And so I'll start with our first one, defensive line, Asa Bartlow, junior nose guard, just in there with some really big athletic linemen, and just showed up continuously, a bunch of tackles for loss, splitting double teams, taking on double teams so you can free up linebackers and all those kind of things, and just really had just an absolutely dominant performance up front, and so Asa Bartlow was our first one. Our second one is another junior that had multiple tackles for loss. Came off the edge, secured a bunch of big plays off the edge. Like I said, tackles for loss, a lot of solo tackles. All those was Landon Dockery. And Landon's an outside linebacker for us that it's kind of a hybrid. You can use him as a cover guy. You can send him off the edge, block destruct with him, all those kind of things. And really proud of him. First year starter guy to kind of come out big in a big game on the road, didn't blink, and just did a fantastic job. So really proud of his development and the amount of work that he's put in. And then lastly, on the back end, our third player of the week, which is almost unprecedented, but we had to do it. Dejon Green, senior captain, just absolutely dominant from big hits to an interception. Just lockdown corner, and a lot of those stats don't show up that just there's no targets because there's nowhere to throw the ball, and so did a great job. So those 3 guys were our players of the game.
Well, I have similar things. I was impressed with the line.
Yep.
But most of the time I spent coaching defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
Coached almost every other position except for defensive line.
Okay.
Because I was a middle school coach. You coach
A lot, yeah.
Everybody, because
Yeah.
like, you gotta do it.
I too am a middle school coach.
That's true. Currently,
Currently,
I'm
yes.
retired. You're current, so you might can school me,
Yes.
teach me a little bit. But I was really impressed with the defensive backs in general. Their offense pretty early on was a lot of zone runs, a lot of hard zone runs. There was a little bit of pulling and some different things they did the offensive line, and then they tried to do a home run ball where they just toss it down. And this one cat, he could catch with one arm behind his back. Like, he made some incredible athletic plays, but almost every single pass play they had, we bracketed them. We had someone on top and someone below it. They just made some really good reads. So, the two exciting ones, Green, of course, that interception. And I think his interception, there's a couple holding calls that brought it back. But you know what? It's tough. You get excited. And
Right.
You're looking for someone to hit, and it happens. And then Kentrell Gaddis with his pick.
Yeah.
And it's just they were in the right place at the right time. They weren't ball hawking. They were just good coverage.
Yeah. Kentrell Gaddis, had a home run on offense, with a big touchdown run to kind of spark us, and then also an interception, a return for a touchdown. So I mean, just had a sophomore with just an absolutely huge night, and electric. And call him KJ, and KJ does so much for us. Plays corner, plays safety, returns kicks, he plays running back, plays inside receiver. Really does it all, and just super athletic kid. That's just we're just now kind of starting to see the beginning of what he can be, and he's so electric. You can move him around a million different places, and really excited about him. Great attitude, great work ethic, great young man, and just really happy for him to spark us in two huge plays in the game. That if you're going to do an overall MVP of the game, could easily be KJ, and Kentrell Gaddis did a fantastic job.
Yeah. Now, of course, a lot of times the defensive backs get the credit, but if your line's not doing the job
Right.
and your linebackers aren't doing the job, well, those passes tend to be a little bit better,
Right.
and they have a little bit more time. So, a lot of times your guys in the trenches make the guys in back shine.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
We call them coverage sacks and coverage INTs and all, or pressure INTs and all those kind of things. And so like it all works as one. That's why football, is a fantastic game, just because everyone has to work together to have the success. So we always talk about team success leads to individual success, and obviously individual success leads to team success. And so it all works together.
So, really excited to see that. Special teams. Talk to me about special teams.
Yeah, special teams, obviously that's some stuff we have to shore up on kickoff, and just some missed tackles and things that we have to continue to get better at. And had some guys in position, didn't quite, bring them down, led to a touchdown, which is kind of uncharacteristic. I think, that rarely happens here. And so, but with that said, our special teams player of the game was a freshman. So we have a freshman, Dylan Gamble, who does our place kicking duties. Kicked off, did a fantastic job with his placement, as well as 4 for 4 on PATs, which is huge. That's really tough to do. You're a freshman, first time kicking, you go down to Texas, 7-hour road trip, all the things, playing varsity under, big time district champion in Texas, and big stadium and all those kind of things, and just was as cool as a cucumber, and did his job and placed the ball where it needed to be, even had a tackle, which is pretty cool. But I will tell you, Dylan's not your normal kicker. Dylan is a football player. He plays safety and receiver for us as well, and so he's just happens to have a really strong leg and be able to kick, and so he offers a lot of versatility, having a really good athlete at the kicker position. That is not just going to kick it and stand there. He's going to kick it and go make a tackle. And so, but with all that said, he was our player of the game. Just really impressed with how he handled himself, and being a first-time varsity player, and just did a fantastic job.
And he is mine as well. And evidence, I've highlighted him. We talked about him beforehand. Like, this is my player of the game, and for one play, that's why he's my player of the game. His first Friday Night Live PAT, there was a 5-yard penalty, and they had to move him back 5 yards.
Right.
And so most people don't understand that 5 yards is huge, because you practice PAT, PAT, and just by moving them back, first of all, it takes you out of your normal rhythm, and so now you're more nervous. And he nailed it.
Yep.
And as a freshman, that is impressive.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. And exactly to your point, it's very difficult to do. But he just did his job, as
You're right.
we've seen, and I just couldn't be more impressed with him.
Of course, you you want a kicker that you don't really even notice they're there. It's like, okay,
Right.
you kick the ball, that's where the ball's supposed to go.
Yeah.
You get the automatic one. In the pros, you don't even think about it. It's like they're going to make the PAT.
Right.
So like you score a touchdown at 7 points. So that's kind of what you want in high school.
Yeah.
So when someone's automatic like that, you don't worry about it. That's the
Yeah.
kind of kicker you want. So
Absolutely.
I was impressed with that.
No doubt.
So a lot of good things to build on, and I guarantee you film study was interesting.
Sure.
But it always is at the beginning of the year. It's exciting to start off with a win, especially.
Right.
And it's exciting to work on those things. We do have a bye week, so we've got a lot of weeks to work.
Mhm.
So we're heading up to Hays, Kansas, which
That's right.
if you didn't tell me about Hays, Kansas, I wouldn't know about it.
Yeah.
Tell me about, last year we played this other team that did the flex bone, right?
Mhm. Correct.
Tell me about Hays and what we're expected to see up at Hays.
Yeah, Hayes is a defending state runner-up in Kansas, so very, very good ball club as well. And big physical line. Has a guy at OU's offered on the offensive line. Have really good running back, really good skilled kids, very well coached, as you would imagine if you're a state runner-up, and kind of a program on the rise. And I think they expect to win state this year and have a great chance at that. So it'll be another huge test for us on the road. Another 6-hour road trip for us.
Mm-hmm.
That day to try to go take care of business, and we'll definitely have our hands full with them. They have a championship culture and high expectations going into the season. And on top of that, kind of a cool deal that we'll get to participate in next week is this will be the first ever game played at their brand new stadium.
Oh, yeah.
They've never had their own stadium. They've always played at Fort Hays State, a local Division II school. So they've just now built their first ever on-site stadium in the history of the school. And so it will be the very first game that's ever played there, which is pretty cool. So pretty good honor for our kids. And it's a beautiful stadium. If you haven't seen it, if you get a chance to check it out, it's really, really gorgeous. And exciting times for our kids and just a chance to get better. And kind of to your original point, visiting is like, you really have to kind of temper yourself, as a coach, good or bad. Like, yeah, we won. We're excited that we win. But, the process doesn't change if we lost. We have a lot to get better at. A lot of room for improvement, as you would suspect, going into the beginning of the season. And so, every play, it's like, hey, you may see, 9 really good things and then 2 massive busts, or vice versa. And so it's just always a process of continuing to clean those up. As you mentioned at the beginning of the show, evidence on film, because that's all we have right now, right? That's the only game we have. And just continue to critique. And then as I tell our kids every day, like, you're really in a race to get as good as you can, as fast as you can. And that's really the race. And so, with that said, we do, we still do 2-a-days. We have 5:45 a.m. practices, and then come, get stuff on film, come back, critique, correct later on in the afternoon, lift film, go back out again and do it again. And so that's really just trying to get, as many reps and as many practices as we can in place as soon as we can, so then you can correct the mistakes. And, as a coach, that's what you want. I say, hey, don't be perfect. Just go try really hard. We can correct the mistakes as long as the effort's there. And we saw that. And so the beginning of the game, going back to Lubbock, is a lot of effort, a lot of really good, kids trying hard, gold standard effort, that we talk about in our program. But just making, little critical errors here and there that we can continue to improve upon. And, as the game went on, they're able to kind of do that. But I'm excited about this team. They're a very fun group to coach. They're very unselfish. They work very, very hard. They've met any expectations that we set upon them. And so we keep raising the bar and keep trying to, press them, because they do want to be great, and just see where this season can take us. But really, really excited about game one.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. One of my favorite quotes back in my coaching days was, if you're going to be wrong strong. So
I haven't heard that one. That's good.
Make the read and go full speed.
Yeah.
If it's wrong, great, but don't just stand there keeping reading, because then you're beat. So take a step downhill, be wrong strong.
I like it. We have a similar saying. We say, if you're going to miss fast.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar deal. It's like, hey, don't be scared of mistakes, but go.
Yeah. There's always another play.
Yeah,
There's always
absolutely.
the next play. The next play.
No doubt.
It's an endurance battle. You're not going to beat that guy across from you every single time.
Yeah, we say you win 51% of the time. That's a W. So
Exactly.
just keep getting back up.
I think that's a great way to end
Yeah.
on a W. And we'll see you in 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks in Hays, Kansas.
You got it.
And until then, stay golden.